But I want to start with the big interview, okay? You're going to get to talk, 844-968-7720, but let's watch the interview first, okay? Because there's all this speculation surrounding the California Democratic governor, Gavin Newsom. Why? Because we're not used to seeing a big shot like that campaigning for somebody else this far out. He's all over the country more than Biden or Harris. Why? He says because he believes, because he wants to do everything he can for his party, and he insists he is not running. But he's raising the money. He's making the contacts. He's traveling the country. He's even saying, I want to debate Ron DeSantis. And I ask him about how real that is. So what is the reason for this with Newsom? He's going to answer that, and you're going to get to judge it. And his case for why Team Biden is the best team for you. Time to test. Let's get after it with Governor Gavin Newsom. Gov, thank you very much for taking the opportunity.
Great to be here.
Full disclosure.
Yes, sir.
You and I talk. I am very impressed by your acumen on the party and the state of play. Yeah. It's an unusual quality for a number one, right? You know, you're a governor, you're head of state, but you see the game very well about what's going on. And I appreciate you coming on here and giving us the opportunity.
Great to be with you, especially in studio.
It's nice to have you. So you're here in New York. It's UN Week. You're here as part of the Clinton Global Initiative.
Yep.
And it's interesting because I'm watching the former president, one of the most brilliant men I've ever seen in the sphere. And it's an interesting analogy to what's being said about the current president, Biden. Bill Clinton is sharp. He's smart. He cares. Right. He does not seem like he's ready to lead the country. He is younger than Biden. Is that a legitimate basis of criticism?
Fair point. I mean, look, we're getting down the rabbit hole on the age, and I've answered this question in 100 different ways. And of course, the immediate pivot in my party is the understandable pivot. Look at the performance, look at the success of the last 2.5 years, leave the judgment to the American people on age, which is fair game. And the president, I was with him last night, I think had 2 or 3 lines on this where he's obviously getting more and more comfortable with acknowledging the obvious, the conversation we're all having in this country. But at the end of the day, I'm about someone that could put the best team on the field. I'm for someone who actually could produce the best results. And I've seen 2.5 years of a masterclass of result making. I've seen someone who's also been doing deals and is a deal maker with the Republican Party on issues that I never thought both parties would come together on, from infrastructure to the CHIPS and Science Act to what he was able to do on the debt ceiling itself, and $1 trillion of debt reduction that was part of that deal, on gun safety. So I'm really proud of the president. I'm proud of what he's done, and I'm proud of his team. And you know this well because of your own experiences in politics. It's not about the guy or gal on the white horse. It's about those around the table. And he's brought together an extraordinary team, and that's why I'm a team player all in on Biden.
So let's talk about that. There are 2 issues with what you just said. The first one is that the message is only true if you get to make it. And whether it's age or stage or the people around them, the Democrats, I think, are rightly sanctioned for allowing the Republicans to dictate the narrative right now. What you're talking about, we almost never hear from Democrats. The Republicans are saying, look at the grocery store, look at the gas pumps, and look at basically just how he performs. And you're losing on that argument. Correct. Why are the Democrats allowing the narrative to be taken from them?
It's long been a source of deep anxiety for me, so much so that I started doing ads in Florida to sort of counter my frustration. Rather than pointing fingers, I started to iterate, did billboards in 7 states around the issue of reproductive freedom, focused the same in places like I did full-page ads, in fact, down in Texas. My point is, I'm going to red states. I'm trying to make the case. I'm listening. I'm learning. I'm iterating. I'm out here with the Clinton Global Initiative trying to absorb and just try to reconcile the fact that, yeah, we have a messaging problem. We've been on the receiving end of CRT, DEI, ESG, all 3, whatever has 3 letters. We seem to be on the receiving end. No one understands what woke is. Even Trump himself said, I don't even know how to define the term. But they're winning on the messaging. We're reacting. Trans issues, all these issues. They sell fear and panic on the border, inflation, on crime, and they sell calm and indifference on issues like climate change and public health. And so our job is to get on the offense and to redefine the terms of debate. That's what campaigns are about. That's why I'm actually excited as we turn on the campaign apparatus. We haven't even started. And we get back on the field, and all of us, Democrats, in positions of importance moral authority, those Democrats that have no formal authority, and we get out and we make the case to the American people why this president and this administration deserve a second term.
So message is my first point of confusion.
Yep.
Messenger is an obvious one, but, you know, I have one of you at home. You're a sitting governor. I have a former sitting governor at home. And when I would talk about helping the national, I'd say, well, be careful because there's a line. If you believe it that much, then it should be you. And that's how I feel about you, Gov, which is I get that you want to help your team.
Yeah.
But why not you? If you really care that much about the issues, I know you say you're not running, which is unusual to put a period at it.
Yeah, exclamation
Why, if you
point.
care, why don't you run if you care?
Because I believe in this guy. Actually, you know why?
You think Joe Biden is the best the Democrats can do?
And I hope you can differentiate, because your BS meter is one of the best, because you've been around this all your life. I don't like this guy. I have deep respect, reverence for Joe Biden as a person, his character, his decency, and his capacity to do great things. That's why I'm not worthy of that conversation. This guy deserves it. And we, as members of the party, deserve to have his back more forcefully, and none of the nonsense. All this, these quiet conversations you've been in, we've all been in. Folks talking behind the back that become headlines, and we're all chasing that right now. We got to get on the team. We got to get this guy reelected, and we got to stop all the navel gazing and the hand wringing and all the behind-the-scenes quiet conversations off the record that tend to find their way into the press as sources close to.
But the logic of it, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you know how your polling goes.
Yeah.
You check every box that the current president doesn't for the people who are worried about him. How do you balance that with telling people, I'm here for you, I care about what matters to you, I'm going all over the country to make this message because I believe in it, but I'm not going to do it?
I mean, look what he did, not just at the G20, what he's done in G7. NATO's stronger than ever. It's larger than ever. What he's doing with the Quad, what he just did at Camp David with Japan and Korea, South Korea. I mean, those are things, with all due respect to guys like me, we're not in a position.
So you think he wins on the record?
I think he's done an extraordinary job. I care about performance and character on both fronts. He's the right guy. And end of the day, I like the team he's put together, and I think that team should stay on the field. And I like the momentum, and I like the direction of this country. And with all due respect, I get the Republican arguments about, well, we identify the obvious, cost of eggs are higher, cost of gas is higher, but what the hell are they proposing to make a difference? Directionally, we're moving in the right direction. When you have a record that says you have 7 times more jobs, 7 times in the last 3 Republican administrations combined, I mean, that should be the easiest message in the world to sell.
But if you don't actively do what you're doing right now, right, then in the vacuum, it's right way, wrong way polls, bad for Biden. Feelings about the economy, bad for Biden. Now, a lot of this is about how you message. That's what campaigns are about. You know this well.
No, that's it. But we have to. The Democratic Party has to. I mean, I just brought up Bobby Kennedy.
Like
I remember
you're propping him up. Like, here's Newsom,
Give me a break.
who everybody believes is part of the future of that, you're part of the president. But you're propping him up. And they're going to get all the big names, and then here comes Obama, and here comes, they got to prop up Biden because he can't do it himself.
No, come on. That's what campaigns are about. It's about the party. What are parties about? I mean, I know your critique of the parties, but at the end of the day, I remember Bobby Kennedy. Remember that extraordinary moment after he lost his brother? He went to the convention. He couldn't even speak. 20 minutes standing ovation. It's a very short speech. People don't even remember the speech. They remember the emotion attached to it. He said, my brother was president of the United States because of all of you, the party, the Democratic Party, that infrastructure, that passion and action that was organized around their values. I think the party matters. It now matters more than ever in relationship to selling the message of the Biden administration. Again, it's about all of us, not about one person. I know we're all romantic about the guy or gal on the white horse that's going to come save the day, the old John Wayne construct. But I think it's a little more complicated and nuanced now. We had that with Trump. He promoted all that. He was the great performer. He was the great messenger. You're absolutely right. He'd be selling one damn thing. He'd sell one factory in the CHIPS Act and act like he had solved every damn problem in the world. When you got a president, we have a president, the lowest black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, lowest unemployment for disabled people, 70-year low for women. I mean, my God, we have an unbelievable opportunity to sort of segment the messaging, get out in this country.
If they believe and feel.
Well, that's it. And that's
facts don't win. Feelings win.
Feelings win. We have been polarized and traumatized in the last 4 or 5 years, and all of us have to reconcile that. I mean, all the behavioral health issues, all of that stress that's been stacked is real. And it's a challenge for us. And that's why it requires all of us, because you're right, people aren't feeling these things. Individually, many are, but in the aggregate, clearly it's represented.
Some of the big ticket items that make me wonder, okay?
Yep.
Governor Newsom, let alone if you were President Newsom, East Palestine happens, you go. If it happens on your watch at home, you go.
Yeah.
If it happened in the country, you'd go. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Yeah. Why won't he go? Why won't he go? Okay, so what does that play to? People have to make sense of it. Why won't he go? Is it because it's red? That doesn't make sense. No. It's too obvious. Is it because he doesn't have it in him? He doesn't care? Now you feed that. The migrants. This is terrible. New York, the mayor, the governor, these are your people. They come to Washington, ask for help. You say, let the businesses help you. Go home.
No. Yeah, I get it.
You would have done that?
Hey.
So where is the big D Democrat? Look at what he's doing on these issues that people are paying attention to.
Well, he's been back in California 3 times related to disasters, so I can just tell you he's been on the ground, and he was quick to get on the ground, and he was the first to make the call.
Why not East Palestine? Look what I'm growing on my face. Look how embarrassing this is, because it matters.
We could all reflect on moments. As mayor, where I can reflect, I could have, should have, and there was other things going on, and I wish people could understand we were this close to solving one major labor issue. There could have been issues all around the globe that none of us were privy to. I get it. There's calculations, for better, for worse. And if that's the worst, I mean, my God, 2.5 years, and I can continue to go on with the record of performance and accomplishments of this administration globally, not just domestically, that's pretty modest critique with respect. And again, beyond that, you're right. On the border, that's real. That's an issue. I'm a border state governor. No one has to educate me on the border. I have the largest land port in the Western Hemisphere. And we have serious issue with fentanyl coming over the border. I've been bringing the National Guard down to the border. We take this very seriously. I've been putting a lid.
You own it.
We own it.
Throw everything at it because that's why you're there.
Billions of dollars, and we've been putting migrant facilities, but we can't continue to do this. And I will say this. We've all been crystal clear. I was with the governor 2 days ago on this issue. Your governor here in New York. It's a real issue. It's not just a red-blue issue.
Right.
And there's a reason we're losing on this issue. We got to get back on the offense. The President of the United States put out a comprehensive immigration plan that looked pretty good to me as a starter the first day he got elected. We need to talk about that more. A pathway to citizenship, a framework around our Dreamers and TPS, issues around visa, border security. We need to dust that off. We need to update it, focus on the asylum seeker issue. It's being gamed. We all know that it's being gamed. It's a real issue. Here, you're living it. It's an issue across the country, and consciousness is growing. And so this is a real issue. And as a Democrat, we haven't been shy to make the point. You can't deny what's happening. You're seeing it with your own eyes.
All right. So what do you think of the governor? We'll talk later. He isn't running. I believe that. But find another time that a big-name Democrat was out making the case more than the guy who wanted the job. It says a lot about where the Democratic Party is right now. And what about VP Harris? The governor's comments about her are more surprising than anything you just heard. And the reason I wanted the interview. Newsom said something about COVID decisions as a governor I've never heard before, and it matters. The break is 4 minutes, 20 seconds. Stay with us. California Governor Gavin Newsom says not running for president in 2024. He says Biden is the guy. And he has an answer for you about Hunter Biden's potential impact on the race. But here's what's going to really raise eyebrows. He says, don't worry about having Plan B. We don't need one. The Democrats have Kamala Harris. Wait until you hear how he explains that and his hindsight on COVID. Here we go. When he ran, I remember very well, he talked a lot about one term. You know what I mean? And I'm in here. I'm not looking to do deal. I'm here. And I get it. There's a moment of crisis, and the age was an issue.
Transitional presidency.
There is no plan B. If there's any, God forbid, with the president, or if he decides he doesn't want to do it because they're savaging his son, whatever it is. Yeah. And the only plan B, of course, putatively, is the Vice President, Kamala Harris. Polling is nowhere. You say she's the absolute best person to be vice president.
Of course she is.
On what basis?
On the basis of being able to lay claim to the success and the record of the Biden administration. You can't claim that. I can't claim that. It's the Biden-Harris administration. She gets to talk about the 13.5 million jobs. She gets to talk about $1.7 trillion reduction in the deficit and $1 trillion as part of the debt deal. She gets to talk about the success of the Infrastructure Act and the CHIPS and Science Act. She gets to talk about the bipartisan deal-making of this administration because she's a member of the administration.
You think she strengthens the ticket? She doesn't weaken the ticket?
I think by definition, she has the ability as a member of the administration to make the case better than any other Democrat. So if that's plan B, that's the best plan B our party has. But I'm not interested in plan B because we got the guy running the show that's on the train, and we all need to get on the train with him. And let's stop talking about these things. That's, to me, rearview mirror stuff. It's exactly where the Republicans want us to go. I'm ready to leap in the future and talk about what we should be talking about. And that's what Bill Clinton talks about tomorrow.
But he did it.
Yeah.
He went out.
Yeah.
You're right. You need a team, but you need Jordan also. And the team's got to be there. But when the time matters, Jordan has the ball in his hands. You got to have a Jordan.
I get it, but I think maybe, on the court, I think we have Jordan. You're talking about in the press room. That's a different conversation. I'm for the performance on the court. And this guy is producing those results every single day with all that heat coming in, all that, that just the smash mouth surround sound anger industry that's been built around this guy 24/7, defining the terms of opposition 24/7, disciplined and focused. He's producing these results every single night, despite all that. So I'm about performance. I'm about outcomes. I think what's happened in our politics, and it's shaping public opinion. So I acknowledge that. I get the polling is a performative quality, and we had 4 years of that. It didn't go so well. We lost 2.9 million jobs. Deficit as a percentage of GDP went up 11.5% under Trump. Every year, the deficit went up under Trump. We lost more jobs. He lost as many jobs as Herbert Hoover. There's no president. The last 3 Republican presidents have one thing in common: recessions. Since 1989, people forget this. I can't even believe we're having a debate about the economy and jobs. Since 1989 and the end of the Cold War, there's been 49 million American jobs created. 47 million of them created in Democratic administrations. It's not even an interesting debate for me, and it shouldn't be for the country. But we got to, I agree, sell the facts and acknowledge the feelings.
A debate can look like it sizes up really lopsided, but you still got to win it.
You got to win it.
And that's certainly, that's certainly the process that you guys are in. 2 other big ticket items.
Yes, sir.
One is very brave. And you know me well enough, everybody does. I'm not here to pat politicians on the back.
No.
To say I would have done a lot of things differently if I could look back at the pandemic. Yeah. Why did you say that? And what would you have done differently?
Because I'm in the process. It's about humility and grace. It's about acknowledging the criticism. It's about taking that to heart, and it's about learning from the past so you don't repeat it. It's about being more prepared going forward. And we just went through an exercise. I brought people that disagree with. We did interviews with folks internationally as well, some of our most fierce critics. And we did interviews with them, and then I brought folks around the table, and we had a 3-day summit of sorts. And we're putting together a report that's very self-critical. What would we have done better in terms of our messaging? What we could have done better in those early conversations around masking? What could we have done better in terms of the distribution of vaccines and the prioritization of them? Could we have regionalized our approach as opposed to one-size-fits-all earlier? All those things with some sense, again, of humility and grace to those that still are feeling the stress and aftermath of that experience.
To the critics who say it was intentional, that guys like you, like my brother, like, the president, not Trump, but for some reason Biden, even though Trump owned it first, you did the masks to shut us down. You did the vaccine to help big pharma. You did these things for bad reasons.
And I love the big pharma when I'm producing my own insulin. We're actually creating our own manufactured insulin. I'm not into subsidizing costs. I want to lower fundamental costs. No state's done more against big pharma. Nonsense. And by the way, your brother did a magnificent job in the beginning. None of us knew what we did. No one. We're all geniuses in hindsight, not just experts, geniuses. He was trying to find body bags. I was trying to find body bags. I had to bring them from other states. Mobile morgues. People forget all that. It's amnesia, what we were up against early. And you had nurses saying, wait, we can't get masks. Before you hand them out to everybody else, they were desperate. So it was understandable. Even Fauci in the beginning, there was some ambiguity in that. Now, in hindsight, we could have expressed that more clearly. That's a perfect example of an area when we look back, now we understand. Reagents, remember those? I mean, there were a lot of nuances, our own stockpiles, our own ventilators. You got to make sure that you upgrade those ventilators. You got to make sure they're continued to be recharged. A lot of storage issues, all those things. Again, with some grace and humility. So I applauded what your brother did early in this pandemic. By the way, the facts bear out the successes. And this, to me, is the most galling part, particularly when you have a Republican Party claiming this mantle of life. You look at the per capita deaths in these states, including Florida. I mean, it's 28.8% higher per capita deaths in the state of Florida than the state of California. We outperformed them in GDP. In 2020, we contracted at a lower rate, and we had a higher growth rate in 2021. And in education, in 3 out of 4 categories, they had higher learning loss than states like California. New York fared similarly. So there's a lot of revisionist history here on the pages, with all due respect, of the Wall Street Journal and others that are sort of segmenting facts and winning the debate because we're exhausted about this conversation. But I think we have not done the analysis, and we've not done justice to a self-reflective critique of our own relationship to this and the actions that we took. And I think that's important for all of us, the American people.
You think there's any chance Governor DeSantis wants to debate with somebody who's not running for president?
Remarkable to me that he does, or at least has asserted that he does on multiple occasions, which is another reason he...
And do you mean it? Would you do it?
It's another reason he shouldn't be president. He's so easy to distract.
Are you just trying to distract him, or would you debate him?
I'm all in. No, that would be a wonderful 90-minute distraction. I look forward to that engagement.
But there's no date. This is just...
It was, we had a date in November, and then they just moved their Republican primary up. So I forgive him if that date doesn't work out. But I'm all in and ready to go.
You are suing on the basis of climate. People have been trying to find different ways to get at it. This is an interesting theory, a la tobacco.
Absolutely.
Fossil fuel companies, big shots. Yeah. You lied about fossil fuels, and you made us think certain things about them that were untrue, to our detriment of health and economics, and I'm coming for you. On what theory?
On what theory? The facts. I mean, the factual evidence. I'd encourage, the last thing anyone wants to read is a legal brief. This legal brief.
That's all our politics is.
I mean,
it's legal briefs. My whole staff can read a subpoena in 5 minutes.
That's true. I may be on the wrong network talking to the wrong person on that subject matter. But read it. I mean, you can't read it without crawling out of your skin. They lied. They played us for fools in the 50s, not in the 70s and 80s, in the 60s, 70s and 80s, all of them. Their front groups, they lied. They had the facts. They had the data. They knew that burning of fossil fuels and coal and gas and oil was going to do exactly what it has done and put this planet in distress and externalized all that pollution and all that cost on all of us and avoided any accountability and liability. They lied, and they organized themselves, not dissimilar to the way big tobacco did as well. And they delayed, and this is what's so in their deceit, they delayed progress. I mean, people forget, Tesla was not the first electric car. The Model T was the first electric car in 1913. That technology exists. Carbon capture is not new technology. The oil companies were talking about it a half century ago. They delayed the adaptation. They delayed the implementation, and they're buying off politicians today. They bought off guys like Kevin McCarthy. Just last week, Kevin McCarthy, he's a cheap date, cost just a few $million to buy off the Speaker of the House. They're buying him off. He wants to roll back our progress on electric vehicles. California leading the nation on that transition, and just got Congress to pass, or at least the House to pass, to roll back our rights under the Clean Air Act to advance the cause of that transition. So I take that, and I say that not lightly, bought off. And they continue to buy off politicians as they're backing off these oil companies from their low-carbon commitments. They're playing us for fools. And we believe this is the most consequential suit of its kind. California is the 5th largest economy on the planet, closing in quickly on Germany to be the 4th. And we mean business. And these guys should be ashamed of themselves.
I appreciate what you're doing, making the case, because we're desperate for a real debate about why people should pick one group over the other.
Yeah.
So
at the end of the day, it will be a binary choice when we get to the election. And to me, it's about easiest choice I'll ever have to make. And I mean it. I'm here with passion and pride. for this administration.
And you have no reason to believe that the president has any intention of stepping away?
Zero. In fact, last night only reinforced that clarity, and his conviction and that clarity was expressed very directly.
Going after his son doesn't change the calculus.
As a human being, I've got 4 kids. God bless. And God bless him. And I'm for accountability wherever you find it. Absolutely. And by the way, was the media quick on that story? They were not. And you've been very pointed about that, and you're right about that. And we also, as Democrats, need to own that. But my God, the best they can do right now is a simple gun charge and felony on a
That's
simple
not the
form.
end of the road.
I get it.
You know where they're
see,
going.
We'll see it. We know
a lot of money,
going.
a lot of different pockets, no explanation.
And exactly. And we'll see where that goes. But at the end of the day, I have confidence in what the president has said. I have confidence in the president's capacity to compartmentalize this, and as a human being, as a father, and I have absolute trust and faith in the system to advance the cause of justice.
Governor Newsom, thank you very much for making the case for your party. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You can agree, you can disagree, and we'll talk about it, but the guy can make a case. And it is interesting. Will you vote for Joe Biden because Gavin Newsom makes a better case than Biden can that you can vote for Biden? It's interesting, right? And unusual. We'll see how it plays. Now, 4 minutes, 45 seconds. When we come back, the only risk for Newsom is what if this was his window? What if this was the best time for him to make the move? And it's a mob fest 4 years from now. That's the risk. We'll see. Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.